I don't want to say that now. As time went on, I would say late April or mid-April. I think that was when the last episode was. Um, I get home from I spent a week at work. I took a week off because the pain was so intense. I started taking a shitload of kratom to get the pain level down, so that way it was tolerable, right?
Yeah.
And it did, and it was working. But I'm also taking like 18 ibuprofens a day, or 18 naproxens and stuff, as well as like 15 kratoms. I was taking a lot of shit. And so,
Damn.
as things are really hurting at work, but I would say by Thursday it starts to feel better, and I feel like I turned a corner. I'm like, fuck yeah, all
Yeah.
right, this is pretty cool. I get home on Saturday, and I notice that this hand is moving just fine. This hand is moving a little kind of slow. And I'm like, that's kind of
Yeah.
weird. I wake up the next morning, this hand feels numb. This hand still feels fine. So I'm like, well, I think I could still make it to work because I'm a fucking badass. And I get to work, and by the time I leave work, I'm like, yeah, I noticed that my right leg is dragging. I make it to the car. I'm having a hard time just turning the key in my ignition. And I'm like, this is really not so great. What the fuck's going on with this? Um, I get home, I make it home, and I'm like, I should not drive. This is pretty bad. But maybe, I have the next 2 days off. Let me fucking just rest and relax. Maybe that's it. I wake up and I have a hard time walking because I noticed that, like, I could still move these fingers, but these fingers are not moving. They're just kind of curled in. Same with the toes on my
Yeah.
right foot. So that makes it very difficult to walk unless I force my foot into some slippers or something, right? So I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm gonna call the doctor and let him know what's going on, the orthopedic place, right? I call them up and they're like, do you smell toast? Okay, do you have any numbness on your
Oh,
face?
they're asking.
Because they're trying to figure out if this is a stroke or not. And I'm like, nope. I
Yeah.
give them all
Yeah.
the answers. It's like, all right, we're gonna get you an MRI scheduled for you as quickly as possible. We're gonna see what we can do, Dave, and everything. I need you to take these vitamins, some magnesium, and some other stuff. Please try to help out, and just stay relaxed and everything. I'm like, okay, no problem. So Tuesday, um, they get me scheduled to get in for an MRI. Closest earliest one they get is like 7 p.m. that night, which is trying to schedule an MRI. That's actually pretty good. So I was like, all right. So that morning, Jenny's out walking the dogs. I'm out smoking a cigarette, and when I come back in, it drops out of my right hand, and I'm like, all right. So I'm trying to bend down and pick it up. I'm squatting with my legs farther and farther. I finally get to it, and then my legs give out and stop working. And then I just fucking fall back into, onto the floor and stuff. I'm like, all right, Jenny's going to be up here in a second. Relax. Don't worry. Let's wait. Try to move your legs away from the door so she doesn't come in. And so when she walks in, I'm like, all right, don't worry. But I fell down. And of course, she's trying not to freak out. The dogs are like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, get the fuck off me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I get back up, get back in the chair and everything. I'm like, no, I think I'll be fine. I bent down too far. So later on that evening, man, we get the MRI, and usually the tech isn't going to say anything. You'll leave that for the doctor. As soon as I get out, this was only a half hour or a 20-minute MRI, which I can do those easy. It's the hour long ones that are fucking tough, man. Uh,
I've had a few of them. I've had one of those hour long ones.
yeah, those are not
It fucking
fun.
yeah, it sucks.
If you don't have an issue with being in close spaces, you fucking will after the end of an hour long MRI. So as he's pulling me out, he's like, dude, you need to go to the hospital, man. I'm like, okay. He's like, no, seriously, this is one of the most fucked up necks that I've seen. I'm like, all right. He's like, we've already told your wife and everything what was going on. So and we've also called the doctor, and I'm like, okay, no problem, because they said like the doctor was like, I'm gonna call you as soon as we're done, or as soon as you're done with the MRI. They're gonna give me the results and stuff like that, and we'll figure out what's going on with this. So they get me back into the car. It's still really difficult to move, but I could still kind of move around a bit, right? And I'm trying to stay calm. Jenny's trying to stay calm. She's doing a fucking great job of all this because she's been through shit like this before when her mom was sick. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like she switches into a completely different mode, and she's like, all right, I'm going to taking care of all this stuff. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
So the doctor calls, and I could hear that there's tears in her voice. where she's like, I know you guys are between insurance right now, but you need to drop what you're doing. You need to go to the hospital. You need to go to the emergency room right now. You have to go right now. Tell me you're gonna go. I'm like, yeah, okay, no, that's what the text said. That's what we're doing. You know. She's like, okay. So she's like, I'm gonna get on the phone with uh, the nurse or whatever, whoever's the head nurse or whoever's in charge of the emergency room. So now we're like at the county hospital in Bannock, I guess. So
Yeah.
we're waiting there. I'm
Yeah.
in the ER and stuff, and I'm like, there's a bunch of people here, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna be stuck here for a while. So I'm still kind of with a wheelchair, and then like Jenny keeps going up to the counter. She's like, "So my doctor is supposed to be talking to the resident nurse or whatever on here. So have you heard anything about it? Do you know if I can get a hold of them? What's going on?" And so the triage nurses are kind of designed to be that buffer because everybody's in massive pain and everybody wants to go back, and they have to kind of see who's ready to go and who's not. And
Yeah.
so they're not, I wouldn't say they're being bitchy, but they're kind of doing their job, which involves being unsympathetic. So I'm still trying to be calm about everything. And then suddenly, uh, there's another lady that goes back there. Jenny goes up. She's like, "Hey, are you the nurse?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, did you talk to so and so, to this doctor?" She's like, "Yep." Okay, great. Can you? She's like, she mentioned something like, "Can you hold on for 1 second? If I get her on my phone, can you talk to her right now?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right." So Jenny's working all this fucking stuff, and they're like, "Uh huh, uh huh." Do you guys have like pictures or anything of the guy's neck? And Jenny's like, "Yep, here's the video or here's the disc." They put it in right there, and then the nurse is like, "All right, get him a neck brace." They're like, "Well, how long is he going to be wearing it?" Like, it's one of the nice ones or one of the, like, no, give him one of the good ones. Get him back right now. And so, like, boom, I'm back there. They're taking all the, getting me undressed and all this other stuff. They're like fucking putting needles in my arm, giving me pain meds, and I'm like, and that was the first time in a long time that I stopped experiencing a shitload of pain. Like, it was, don't get me wrong, if I moved my neck, it was going to be fucking bad. And they're like, yeah, you have a tumor that's pretty much been disintegrating your C4 fucking vertebrae, that's been eating away at it, and it's been pressing against the spinal cord, which is the reason why you can't move any of this stuff. So, um, they keep me over there for like a night, which that was weird because they're moving me. They gave me like um, one another MRI and then two more CT scans and stuff. So they're doing that, and this part was kind of fucked up, and this part was kind of going to my act where I'm like, I'm laying there in bed, right? Jenny's there with me, and I'm like, she's like, okay, everything's gonna be fine. I'm like, we're in the hospital now. I'm in the best place ever. You know what I mean? I've got drugs in my system right now. I'm not in an alleyway. I'm not at home fucking writhing in pain. I'm in a hospital. Okay, I mean, there's nothing else I can do. I might as well just let this shit go and see whatever happens.
Yeah.
So the young nurse who was like, Dave, I'm gonna take care of you. I'm gonna make sure that you're not gonna hurt anymore. Okay? I'm like, yeah, okay, I guess. You're fucking seem like in your mid 20s. You seem like you want to do a good job and everything, but I'm like, okay, my wife's right here. I already have somebody who loves me. I just need to make sure that, my pain meds come on time and shit. So, but I appreciated the effort. Then, right at that moment, there was this other dude who's sitting in the room because there's like 4 or 5 of these kids that are in there.
Yeah.
And he's like, I thought I was supposed to. She's like, this is my patient. Do you understand? And like now I realize that I'm in the middle of a conversation that's been going on between these two little fucks for a while now. And I'm like, god damn it. So, like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad they were there to help. But this is definitely, well, like, when you go there in the middle of the night, you get the fucking romper room crew versus to the daytime where you have the nurse that's been there for like 30, 40 years, and you can tell there's a stark difference. Like, everybody wants to operate up here, but just because of time and experience, some of them are only operating down here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the same thing. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, this is the same like fucking kitchen staff that I got to work with, where everybody wants to be treated like Gordon Ramsay, but they're basically a line cook at this point, and you're like, motherfucker. So that part was really friggin' was kind of crazy. I'm like, well, there's nothing I could do about that now. So like every time they take me to a CT scan, they got to move me off of the bed. Sometimes they do it. They're supposed to do it where there's a little bit of a drop. Sometimes there's a bigger drop than there should be. And so they move me, and I'm like, all right, 1, 2, 3, exhale. And then sometimes it's kind of nice. Other times I feel like I'm in a question mark, and they just bang my neck back onto the fucking gurney, and I'm like, they're like, you gonna be all right? I'm like, my neck's broken. Like,
Yeah.
there's really not much I could do. I can't, like, even at one point when they were moving me into the last CT scan, as I'm going in there, my right arm is like drooping down. I'm like, please stop, please stop. And they're like, can you hold up your right arm? I'm like, no, I can't. My right side is fucking paralyzed. I have a broken neck. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, well, like, okay, I didn't know.